and I click the live button, so we will probably go live before you see me. Hey guys, it's Ted Bogert with the TED Show. I'm very excited to be back. Very excited technology is working. I'm going to look down at my phone a little bit, but I want to make sure that you know Enrique Acosta Gonzalez. Welcome to the show, my friend.
Well, thank you for having me.
I'm very excited. We tried to do this show before. We could not because of me. And so we are live. There we go.
Outstanding.
So I follow your social media. You are a LinkedIn guy. Mm-hmm. So Facebook is not really your thing, but we're going to expose at least you and your page, Triad Leadership Solutions, and get you some more exposure on that. But you've got a really unique approach to things and a very humble approach, I think, very helpful. And so I would love to learn more about you, and I'm sure they would too. So give us an origin story and welcome to the show.
Yeah, no, thank you. Thank you for having me. Glad to be exposed to the Facebook section of the world. As you mentioned, I am strictly on LinkedIn, but always looking for newer things, right? So a little background is, I'm born in Puerto Rico, raised in the Bronx. So, you could picture that at New York City, lifestyle. But I joined the Navy at 18 from Puerto Rico. And made it a 26-year career.
Thank you for your service. That's amazing.
It's my honor, and anyone that have served will tell you, man, we'll do it again in a heartbeat. So it was great. Did meteorology and oceanography out of all things, primarily because of Hurricane Hugo. So not all disasters is for a bad thing, right?
Right.
And so I did that 26 years, retired, came to Orlando and started Triad Leadership Solutions.
Why Orlando?
Amazing story, real quick. We were supposed to go to Tampa. So we were supposed to go to Tampa, but I'm sitting at the desk. You get one selection and that's it, right? That's your ticket home. And I'm sitting there and Orlando popped in my head. It was just overwhelming. It was Orlando or bust. I sign Orlando. I call my wife. I tell her, hey, we're ready. We're good. She goes, when do we go to Tampa? I said, we don't.
How did that go over?
Well, look, I tell you, I am so blessed. I'm sure that a million words went through her head.
I'm sure.
But none of them came out of her mouth except, I trust you. Let's go. So
what did you want to do in Orlando?
Yeah, I didn't know, to be honest. I just knew that it was a good spot for my two boys. I have a 12 and an 8-year-old. I knew that my father-in-law lived here. I knew that my mom in Ocala, when my brothers were only an hour away, so it made sense that it would be a good place to settle.
So how did you, after you leave and you've got all of that wonderful, what did you say? You studied oceanography
and
meteorology. Mm-hmm. So how did you come up with, or what was the impetus behind Triad Leadership Solutions?
Well, the benefit in military is that you get two things. You get your job, which is meteorology, oceanography, but then you get the leadership side. The leadership side is separate from the technical. And although they go parallel, there's a point where one outweighs the other, and that's at the senior enlisted rank. When you become E7 and above, you're expected to be the expert. So there's no question on your expertise. Now we have to make sure that your leadership, because of how everything evolves in a command, that's intact. And so the E7, 8, and 9 ranks are the leaders of leaders, if you would say. So I did that for 12 years as a senior command leader.
Wow.
And so the meteorology and oceanography thing I didn't want to do anymore. And it only made sense that having all that background that I would venture into bringing in all I learned to the corporate. Now, I tell you that from the military side to the corporate side, it doesn't always match.
Let me
right?
ask you about that, because I have a lot of veterans that come on, and I'm just such a big proponent of supporting everything that vets do. The transition out from military to civilian life can be such a challenge because you have order and you have people that you would risk your life for, give your life for, and you come out and you got all the wolves and crazy people in business. So it's a hard thing to maneuver through. How was that for you? You started to say it's definitely different.
Yeah, I will agree that um, it's still hard. Even after 5 years of being retired, it is still hard. And I'll tell you why. When I went into the military at 18, the world, my counterparts were 18. And I went from an 18-year-old in the common world to an 18-year-old in a different world. And although we grew up the age-wise, we did not grow up experience-wise.
Right.
And so those two worlds, they go in tandem, right? No one gets a different time zone or anything like that or benefit, but you grow away from the world. And so my 26 years, though I was able to maximize everything I did and went to the top in the world, I was still that 18-year-old.
Yeah.
And so here I go, this 40-something-year-old now, try to go back into the world thinking, hey, the world is in par with me, but it's a parallel life. And they kind of get close because we volunteer a lot, right? So they kind of get close, but they never interweave throughout your life in the military. So the problem is you get out and everybody's saying, who's this 18-year-old?
Right. Well, because you lived a certain way for 26 years.
Right.
You learned how to be, your management skills are based on that. Your people skills are really based on that. Your interaction skills, everything that you do, you're trying to bring out of there where it feels like as a civilian, there's definitely more order. And then you're coming out to where it's a free for all, and there isn't that dependability or trust, that immediate shared experience that you have in the armed services that when you come out to the real world. And so every veteran I've ever spoken to, there has always been a challenge, and for some it continues, like you're talking about, to be a challenge. It's still there. It's not as easy as people think. What you did in the military doesn't always convert to what you want to do out in the real world.
Right.
All right. So the Triad leadership, I have to ask you about leadership really quick. We have not met. So my initial impression of you is the same as when I watched your shows, and is the same in the interactions we've had. How does somebody with such a calm spirit become a big leader and commander in the Navy? Because that to me seems like those are the guys that are scarier. But you're very calm, Enrique.
Right. It is, and believe it or not, I had a challenge in the military because they don't expect you to be like that. But one thing is for certain: the people I led in the military will still reach out to me.
Yeah.
And most of the time, when you get out of the military, you don't want to talk to none of those guys, right?
No desire.
Yeah, right. Because one thing the military is learning, and I'm happy about it, is that leadership requires heart. If you do not have heart for people and the things that people go through, you will never be the maximized leader that you could be.
I agree.
You will just be the leader that you are. It's funny because some people, they laugh at my slogan, right? I take
Why do they laugh? Tell them your slogan.
Yeah, I take you from success with a K into success, right?
I love it.
And they laugh because of the suck in it, right? But if you really look at it, right? So when you have leaders that by, you know, by lack of better words, suck, you talk about them.
Right.
Even at your dinner table, you talk about them.
You do.
And so why are we talking about those leaders instead of talking about the good ones?
Right.
The reason is that K factor. And I always say the K factor is what makes you unsuccessful. And not too many people recognize it, because if you say success, you think you're talking about the same word.
Right.
And so what I do is that I help you identify those K factors so that it can actually be the success that we like to see. And you know, a lot of people laugh at it. You know, I wear it on my T-shirts and I put it on my post. And it's not to highlight negativity. It's to highlight what people are whitewashing. Really, if you think about it, they talk about it at their homes. They talk about it to their spouses. They talk about it at the dinner table, but they never bring it up to make a change. Right. And some of it is fear, right? Some people just, man, if I raise the flag on this one concerning him, then or her, then what's going to happen to me? And that's a sad state. But, you know, back to my service, I was able to implement that through my leadership and through the leaders that I had the blessing and honor to raise up. They are still going strong, and that's the difference. You know, the difference of having that K factor and not having it.
How do people? I'm fascinated. I want to ask you about Triad in a minute and what all of that means. But how do people? So a lot of times how do you break through to a leader? How do you get a leader to come to you? Like, my personal vision is that you've got this really hard butt that's the negative kind of guy or girl, I guess, and they don't. Seems like they wouldn't have the wherewithal to go, I probably need to change my approach. How do you get them? Because if they can do that and they reach out to you and they can learn how to do things differently in a positive way, that can make such a huge impact on everybody that works with them.
Yeah, that's I have several approaches, and it's funny because, like, at the CEO level, you know, confidentiality is a must, right? You don't want to highlight somebody's areas that are lacking at that level. It's the head, and you don't want to break down the head. So you entice them. You entice them by saying, you know, honesty is the very first thing that's needed for you to get on the success route. So if you're not honest with yourself, there's nothing I can do. So I ask for them to be honest with themselves, and it's a hard thing. It's a hard ask.
Yeah, because nobody wants to admit. They also don't like to see themselves in a negative light. But I mean, if you're at the point where you're finally realizing, man, my way's not working, what do I need to do? Then that's the time to be vulnerable and authentic and get it out. Otherwise, I've consulted with people before, not on the leadership side like you, but my first thing is, what if they want to balk at everything I'm trying to tell them to do, why did you come to me then? You know something's wrong. You know you need to do something different. Why are you here if you're not listening to anything I have to say? That's usually when we have our breakthrough moment. Oh yeah, I did come to you, didn't I? Yeah, you came to me.
Right.
But it's hard for people to admit. They don't like to see themselves in a negative light.
Right, and I don't like to bring a negative light either. Right, so like on my website, you'll notice that it says, you know, CEO mentorship. It's immersive. Immersive means that I'm going to get in. I'm going to get in deep, right? Because my heart really goes after those heads of states, heads of companies, because I know that at that position, a lot can be changed in the company from one person. Great. And so I can spend my whole time, I can spend years in your leadership and your executives and your managers and all of that. And you can derail it in one word. With one word, you can derail the whole thing. So I really like to work with the CEOs And the reason why I say it's immersive and I also add confidential, this is the perfect time where no one is watching except your house, right? To call me, to reach out to me and let me work with you so that by the time we get back on the other side of this, you can be full, what we call, full round in the service.
That's true. This is the perfect time for that. And I want to agree with you so wholeheartedly on top down. I mean, you are establishing managers and leaders don't realize that everything they do, anything they speak right, really impacts the environment. And everybody's about creating that culture. That's the newer buzzword. You're creating a culture. What is your culture like at your office? And if your culture, and I know places that I actually, thank God my current company is absolutely amazing with the culture. I've worked in and with companies where the morale is so low and the leadership is driving it. And then they can't figure out why people quit all the time. Turnover is so high. And I'm amazed at that. And I've actually offered some of those places just a little bit of help from my background. And now I'm going to make sure I recommend you because these people need it. And if they did it, they would see such a dramatic increase in productivity and morale and all the things that they want, and they just don't want to get out of their own head.
Yeah, no, and so like you said, this is the perfect time. Take advantage that you're secluded. No one will ever find out. On top of that, we provide confidentiality anyway, but no one will find out. You can be in pajamas somewhere in some room, and we'll be talking, getting you developed, and that's fine.
Right.
As long as when you return back to your group, you're a different person. And believe me, from the very first word you say, coming back, they'll notice, especially if it hasn't been there all this time. But, going back to, so the CEO, then, the executives, it's easy for CEOs to say, man, yeah, I have trouble with this person. I have trouble with that one. Can you work with this? And I can do that all day long. But like I said, go back to that head. If that head is supporting the work that's being done beneath him, then everything's good. But with one word, you can derail it. So I really focus on the CEOs as well as the executives and managers and leaders.
So where did Triad come from?
Yeah, Triad is if you look at my logo, it's got like a shield.
I can see it.
The oval. The oval in the military, we wear cookies, what they call cookies on your uniform. And you'll see it. They're either gold or silver badges. They're either on the bottom or on top of your ribbons. But in the Navy, the senior enlisted leaders wear a gold cookie. It's the same exact shape as my logo. On it, the Triad is it has two meanings. One is religious because I'm a believer.
Me too.
Father, Son, Holy Ghost. And the second is the makeup of the structure and leadership in the military. The commanding officer, the executive officer, and the senior enlisted create a triad, a triangle. That triad is what runs each command. Each has its own little thing, right? So the CO bears the full weight and responsibility and accountability for everything that happens at the command. The executive officer breaks down the administrative side, makes sure that everything's flowing right, and even kind of sees some of the legal things that go on in the command. And the senior enlisted is the person that makes sure that the workforce is ready to meet the mission and the vision of the commanding officer.
Love it.
And
that's really cool.
Those three work in tandem. We actually are usually co-located in an office where we're always talking. And so the blessing of senior enlisted leadership in the military is that, at least in the Navy, we can knock on the commanding officer's door, have witness maybe saw something that wasn't right, wasn't going to probably go right with the sailors. and say, Skipper, can I talk to you? And usually they say, yeah, come in. they know by now that we're probably going to discuss something that probably needs to be handled in a different way, or at least we can bring up something. And so that trust that those commanding officers have given to senior enlisted, it's something beautiful, because we can come with the sailor's voice and entreat anything, and they will consider it coming from us, and it's a wonderful thing. So that triad is what
I love the symbol. I love it. I think it's awesome. I had a feeling it had a faith secondary or primary, whichever.
Right.
Definitely had faith there. All right, let me ask you, what are you doing creatively, positively in this new world? What are you doing to stay focused, to stay positive, to stay creative when we are quarantined like we are?
Yeah, no, I have plenty of work to do. Believe me. I was just working on finalizing the website and getting all that thing settled for people. But I've been really focusing on sending messages, like I said, on LinkedIn, of positivity, of encouragement, and just letting people know that they're not alone. We are all, going through this thing. This is not something that is just, reached in one area of the world and maybe not this one. So having someone to go to has been one of my leadership tenets, right? So a lot of people say, open door policy. That's not what I do. I open Enrique, to you, so that you can say, hey, Enrique, I am going through something. What do you think? What can we discuss that? And I do it. Like I mentioned, earlier, I was just doing a motivational video for a high school in Texas. It's Texas. It's not Florida, right?
Correct. But you were able to provide them, even in this technology world,
right,
they can still get a lot of things from you.
Exactly. And so that's what I've been focusing on.
How do you not how do you personally not get depleted?
I have a source, right? I have an unending source, and I lean on that daily.
Very
right.
cool.
So because it's easy to, and I just open. I'm open book. I'm honest. I'm walking out my house. I'm going to the mailbox. All day long in my house, I'm good. I could preach a sermon right in my house. But that little 150 foot walk seemed like an eternity for me. I'm looking around and I'm like, Lord, what is this? Right. Why am I looking around, making sure nobody pops up? All right. because this thing is affecting us all. So yeah, I get a little anxiety. I have my family I have to protect. There's some delicacy there that we just cannot mess with this thing, right? But even in that little walk, you feel your heart is pumping, your mind is racing, and you lock the door and you're like, whew, Lord, thank you.
You get back in, you're like, yeah, I'm safe again.
Oh yeah. And so what I try to do is remember that hey, I'm still human. And just because I survived 26 years in the Navy and I'm doing all this motivation doesn't mean that I'm not human. And I think that's what people like most, is that I am the way I am, and I don't apologize for it.
Well, you shouldn't. There's a calmness, peacefulness around you, and I think that is that's people are attracted to that kind of stuff. When you can put people at ease, that's a gift. So I think it's really cool what you're doing. I love the concept of Triad Leadership Solutions. How do people find you?
Yeah, you can obviously go on LinkedIn, Enrique Acosta Gonzalez, all together. I do have a Facebook page, which is Triad Leadership Solutions. You can do that, or go to Instagram as the same. I believe Twitter is TLS_Florida FL. And there's some other ones, but the website is triadleadershipsolutions.com, and you can even book a session through there and all of that. So
it's awesome, man. Thank you so much for your patience, for sharing yourself. I really think it's important for leaders to get on board with what you're talking about. This is a great time, like you said. I haven't heard anybody say that before, but it's true. This is a great time for the leaders to kind of self-check, figure out what's going on, and make those improvements that they've been putting off because they're completely busy during regular world times. So thank you, Enrique, so much for being on the show. I will share everything, and we will get him on LinkedIn too. We're working on that. So God bless you, brother. I appreciate it.
no, thank you. I just also wanted to mention it. It escaped me. You was asking me, well, what are you doing to keep your? I also have two podcasts. The first podcast is the Leadership Void, and it's on all the platforms. And the second is Developing the Leader Within, and you can look at both of those on any of the platforms that host podcasts.
So when you share the show, when I send it to you, make sure you tag all of that, and I'll look for it too, and we'll tag it so everybody on Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn can find it. All right, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Guys, we'll be back soon. Mwah. We'll see you later. Thanks, Enrique.
Thank you.
I mean, I think we're going. I don't know. Technology, my